grandkids. I can't see their faces. To be able to see again, I mean, it's too awesome. He's just a wonderful person to do something like this.
Caring for Kentucky.
I'm Rand Paul, and I approve this message.
Ricky, tonight we are just getting local news reports that the Charlotte mayor has ordered a midnight curfew. And we are also hearing new questions over whether police are actually behind the shooting of that protester in Charlotte last night. Shortly before 9 p.m., we were watching as police in riot gear lined up to face protesters. A loud pop could be heard, and when our crew rounded the corner, that's when they saw two men sprawled on the concrete, one of them with a massive head wound. Watch. Police are saying a civilian did the shooting. Some people in the community, however, are blaming the cops. In moments, we'll speak with someone who was there and saw it happen. Trace Gallagher is live in our West Coast newsroom first, however. Trace?
Megan, at the scene of the shooting, Charlotte native Jimmy Tyson told the New York Daily News that he saw a man collapse after cops fired a barrage of rubber bullets into the crowd, quoting, "All hell broke loose when they started shooting, and then I saw him fall. I heard rubber bullets being shot, but no gunshots." When Tyson came home, a while later he posted his account on Facebook, but instead of bullets into the crowd, Tyson writes, quoting, "I saw police shoot that man almost point blank with my own eyes. Stop the rhetoric. Police shot him close range in the side of the head with a rubber bullet." Witness Todd Zimmer wrote on Facebook that his city is lying about what happened, that it wasn't civilian on civilian. Quote, "I was there when CMPD shot a protester in the head tonight." Karen Myers says, quote, "I watched a man die tonight with my own two eyes. It was not by a civilian. I don't care what CNN tells you. I was right blanking there." And Minister Steve tonight says, quote, "I saw the man go down on the pavement. It was an ambush. The victim was shot while he stood between two ministers, and we believe he was shot by police. The police chief is now reviewing the video and interviewing the officers who were there." Watch.
As I said before, guys, we're here to seek the truth. So we're investigating that to find the truth, the absolute truth, as best the evidence can show us.
The victim was put on life support last night, and as you said, Megan, he died late today. Megan.
Trace, thank you. Ryan James was an eyewitness to all of this himself. James was apparently staring down the barrel of a pistol at one point. He joins me now. Ryan, thank you for being here. So you were in the middle of the protesters. Did you actually witness the shooting?
I didn't see the moment that the shot was fired, but I heard it was a single shot. I immediately turned my head in the direction of the shot and saw a man with a raised pistol turn and run. I didn't get a good look at him because he turned as I turned to look, but I saw someone with a pistol turn around and run.
How far away from you was he?
Maybe 10 yards.
Can you describe the man?
He was a black man with dreadlocks. That's all I can say. I didn't see his face because he turned around and ran right as I looked at him. But
was it a police officer?
Pandemonium. It was not a police officer. I know what I saw, and this was a protester-on-protester violence.
Did there seem to be any reason why he chose this particular victim?
There didn't seem to be. Obviously, I can't know his motivation, but it seemed like it was indiscriminate firing into a crowd.
Did anybody else see this man? Did you have an exchange with anybody at the time?
No, it was the scene was completely chaotic. People were screaming. No one really knew what to do. No one was talking. It really was kind of anarchy down there in front of the Omni Hotel.
So you do not believe that the police shot this man?
No, I saw a shooter. I saw someone with a raised gun turn around and run.
And why were you out there? Explain that to us, Ryan. What made you go out and join the protesters?
I want you to get Bill O'Reilly.
I was a correspondent for the Daily Beast. We got a protester right here.
I need you to get Bill O'Reilly. help me.
You know what? Apologies, Ryan, because this is your time, and yet somebody wants to hijack it. We'll stand you by because we want to talk to you and not the man with the bullhorn. Stand you by. Thank you for being here, and take a look at what's happening on the streets in Charlotte tonight. As again, originally we were told there would be no curfew. Now we're...
Okay, so she's kind of being a little rude there, right? He's got a message for Bill O'Reilly. Well, okay, I think Bill O'Reilly needs to listen because Bill O'Reilly rushes in, right, when that Ferguson shooting happened. He's like, oh my God, I have to get on this. This is important stuff. And I guess in like-minded, but only for the righteous side, I'm doing the same thing. I've been following this pretty closely. And Lamont Scott, so right from the get-go, she said she was going to set it off and she was going to shut Charlotte down. And that's precisely what she did. The outrage of a daughter who loved her beloved and now deceased 43-year-old father. 3 nights in a row, Charlotte has been shut down. It's all these media types can talk about. It's all CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. It's all they can talk about. They can't. If it bleeds, it leads. If it's gory, it's a story. And now there's a dead protester, and so they're getting to the bottom of it. And again, we're seeing conflicting narratives. We don't know what happened, you know. And it seems like unless we're going to videotape everything all the time, we need to trust somebody. Somebody needs to be trustworthy out here. And apparently that guy seemed to be pretty convincing. So there's been accounts that said that the police had shot the man, and then there's another account that said just what he just said, was that it was a gang shooting, or that the guy went up and just cold-blooded shot the gun, and then he ran off. So this whole confrontation in North Carolina's largest city is just another expression of the seething social tensions that's happening in America. It was driven by an economic crisis, and it's produced record levels of long-term unemployment, poverty, social need, while real wages remain below the level of a decade ago before the 2008 Wall Street crash and stagnated over the last 30 years. So there's underlying tensions to all this. It's not just police brutality, it's economics. It's all about the money. It's all about the economics. This is what one issue that all Americans understand, being a capitalist by default. If you don't have a job, you die. It's all about the money. It's about the economics. And so when you have record levels of long-term unemployment, lots of poverty, lots of social need, and people aren't being heard and people aren't getting the help that they need, there's even people in this country that don't think that we deserve universal health care. Health care is life. So we got plenty of money for war and bombs and nuclear warhead and bailing out banks, but we don't have enough money for life. What about liberty and the pursuit of happiness? If we don't even have life, those two things don't even matter. And it's been stagnated since the 80s. I mean, that's not just 30, it's 40 years. For 40 years, we've had stagnated wages while the oil companies make record profits. So let me get you back on track here. So just to recap what's been happening. You had a 43-year-old Keith Lamont Scott, who's a husband, a father of 7, a family man. A disabled black man was waiting in his car for his son to arrive from the school on a school bus. While Keith Lamont Scott was peacefully waiting for his son's school bus, he wasn't messing with anybody, but he did get killed. So here are the facts. Keith Lamont Scott, he's married to Rakia Scott for 20 years. They got 7 kids. And Jesse Waters did mention he had a DUI charge and an assault charge. So just throwing that out there. Keith Lamont Scott was disabled. Keith Lamont Scott didn't have a gun in his hand the first time that he exited the vehicle. The police are saying their story is he gets out of the vehicle, he comes back in the vehicle, he gets back out of the vehicle. The first time that he gets out of the vehicle, he had no gun. That's according to the police. Keith Lamont Scott wasn't harming anybody. That's absolutely the case. Nor was he doing anything to anybody, just sitting in his car. He did get out. So what did he get out to do? I'm kind of curious about that. Keith Lamont Scott, however, in general, before he got out to do whatever he needed to do and come back, he's just sitting there patiently, peacefully, sitting in his car waiting for his son to get up, off the school bus so he could pick him up. So, he got out for a moment, he returned. Now, Brentley Vinson, this is a pig who's been a pig for 2 whole years. He was in plain clothes, though. So it wasn't just a pig, that's a guy, that's a thug. So he saw there's a thug, there's a, you know, he's a black guy, so a black thug was running towards him, because as far as I'm concerned, you're in plain clothes. You're a regular dude out here, and you got a right to stand your ground. So a regular dude who is in plain clothes and is just jumping somebody for the fark of it, just for the fark of it, and then guns them down. Sorry, YouTube keeps demonetizing my videos, so I got to make sure I hear a lot of everybody else cusses, though. So, just for the fark of it, somebody jumps him just for the fark of it, and then they gun him down. That's a thug. That's a person who just jumps you, guns you down, and now you're dead. And he was in plain clothes. That's what Brentley Vinson did to Keith Lamont Scott. Brentley Vinson, not only did he not wear a uniform or a badge that day, he was looking for a mysterious Joe Doe PQX. Where's Joe Doe PQX? We don't even know who this mysterious guy that had an outstanding warrant for his arrest is. Joe Doe PQX, where is he? So he's looking for another guy. He doesn't have a uniform on. And then Brentley Vinson suspiciously didn't even have enough experience. He's been on the force for a whole 2 years. But he didn't push the button to turn on his body camera. His body camera wasn't on. Oh, how convenient. That's so convenient. Supposedly the other 3 officers were around. They had body cameras, and then there's dash cam footage, which means there's videotapes. There's videotapes that the police have of this incident that they're not releasing out to the public in spite of the family saying that it's okay. They want the tapes to be released to the public. Kerr Putney said that the entire incident happened in a matter of seconds. Keith Lamont Scott didn't have a gun in his hands the first time he got out of his car, so why was a plainclothes Brentley Vinson, who didn't have a body camera on, who was searching for another guy, why was he even messing with Keith Lamont Scott in the first place? What's his probable cause? The guy gets out of the car and he gets back in the car. Clearly he's guilty of something. Why would you think that makes him guilty of something? People get in and out of cars. That's the only way you can get into a car. And then once you get into it, the only thing you can do from there is get out of a car. That's the extent of a relationship that humans have with cars. Get in and you get out. That's not suspicious. He didn't have a gun. He had nothing in his hands. He gets out of the car. He goes back in. Why is Brentley Vinson, who's looking for another guy, who's got plain clothes on, who doesn't have a body camera turned on, why is he engaging with this man? Why is he even messing with him? This sounds like a jacking. This sounds like just somebody coming up to you and robbing you. This is a looting. This is a thug robbing a peaceful man waiting for his kid to get off the bus from school. Kerr Putney said that Keith Lamont Scott didn't directly point the gun at the plainclothes Brentley Vinson. He's already admitted this. So we're seeing the limits of their lies by what they admit. And he didn't directly point the gun. Okay, so he's saying that there was a gun, but he didn't point it. Okay, so where's the gun at? The gun's like this. The gun's in his pocket. The gun's in his waistline. Is it holstered? Where's this gun at? Brentley Vinson was part of the crime reduction unit, and I want to know about that. What's their main responsibility? Going around jumping people and robbing them and killing them like a bunch of thugs that they are, and then keeping quiet, keep it all secret? Do they rape too? Do they rape and, let's see, they murder, they steal, do they rape and use violence? I mean, that's the only thing they don't do is rape, right? But I guess that happens in the jail. Crime reduction too. This is a special teams, isn't it? Crime reduction, all the cops are crime reduction. So why is it that just he is on a crime reduction unit? Why do you need a unit for crime reduction? All the cops are there for crime reducing. So this is a special teams game, right? That's why he didn't have to wear the uniform. He gets to wear plain clothes, jump whoever the hell he wants to jump. Kerr Putney said that the video wasn't definitive. The videotape isn't conclusive. And he said that he didn't see a point in releasing it to the media because it doesn't help the cause. It doesn't show that the gun come up and was pointed at him and they had to kill the guy because that was it. In fact, he actually goes further than that. He says that he can't even see by the videotape what was in his hands. What was in the man's hands? They've been saying that it was a gun the whole time. No book. Oh, there's no book at all. Definitely a gun. But the videotape does not show what was on Keith Lamont Scott's hands. So the videotape doesn't exonerate Brentley Vinson. It doesn't prove him to be innocent. Charge him with murder. Charge him with murder and throw him in jail, just like they did to that murderous cop in Tulsa. He killed a man. He killed somebody. And now you guys are all covering it up. So actually everybody that's a part of this cover-up should be thrown in jail too for being accomplices to a murder. Everybody in Charlotte, North Carolina right now who is sabotaging property is right. That's exactly what Nelson Mandela would say to do. Sabotage. Not terrorism, not murder, not revolution. Sabotage. Destroy private property. Get the attention of the media. Make sure that the whole country, the whole world knows that cops have been murdering people and they've got to stop. They asked him, let's see, so he's, right now Brentley Vinson is enjoying a paid vacation and paid administrative leave funded by the taxpayer, so that's great. We're paying for this cop to sit around doing nothing because he murdered a man. And I heard George Zimmerman got $250,000 for that handgun that he shot Trayvon Martin with. Yeah, and these racist Republicans, y'all want to complain about taxes, but you got $250,000 to give a racist who murders a black person? I don't want to hear about taxes anymore from you all. So they asked him if his hands was down by his side and he was walking backwards. Somebody said that Keith Lamont Scott had his hands down by his side and that he was walking backwards. And that's when Kerr Putney, just now actually, Kelly did a pretty good job when she was interviewing him, got more out of him than the press conferences have. And it said that he cannot see what was on Keith Lamont Scott's hands. He can't see what was in his hands. It's not definitive. Not only can you not see the gun pointed to the cops, you can't even see a gun or a hand or nothing. And then Kerr Putney, the police chief, he says that the officer perceived something was in his hands. There's witness statements that says that there was something in his hands, but the videotape does not prove their case. It doesn't prove their case. That's why they're not releasing it, because it doesn't prove their case. It goes against the bullshit lies that they've been telling the whole time. So they said, and then they said that Keith Lamont Scott turned around, and then that's when Brentley Vinson shot him. So Brentley Vinson had a gun. He definitely had a gun. He definitely had it pulled, and he definitely had it waiting for what? Keith Lamont Scott to turn around. He's walking backwards, and then he was like, that, and that was it. That's it. That's all she wrote. Kelly then asked Kerr Putney, was there a gun at the scene? Was it registered to Keith Lamont Scott? And were there any fingerprints on the gun? And then he was like, oh, I can't say anything about that. Why can't you say anything about that? Is that more lies? There's a gun, but there's no fingerprints on it? It's not registered. I'm pretty sure I've read that it's not registered to him. But what about fingerprints? The family wants the videotapes released. Kerr Putney says he doesn't have authority to release the videotape. He said that it was the State Bureau of Investigations. So it's another police authority, which we don't know who the face of the State Bureau of Investigations is. Is that back to the governor now? Is that the state police chief? And who's that man's name? So Kerr Putney, he still says, when you take in totality of all the evidence, it still supports what we said. Are you just trying to win an argument? Or are you actually looking at the evidence and when you're wrong, you're going to admit that you're wrong? What the Charlotte police are saying is that 43-year-old, the disabled Keith Lamont Scott, got out of his car without a gun. He comes back into the car, still no gun, and then we're supposed to believe that out of nowhere, Keith Lamont Scott gets out of the car and is blazing, or no, not blazing, he gets out of the car with a gun in his hands just to scare the police, but he's not going to point it. He's just going to say, look what I got, cops. And then he runs away, or he's running towards the police, because they're in an imminent threat. Imminent threat. They don't know that they were so scared. Oh, my God, we could have been shot. We were so scared. So, if that's the case, why didn't Keith point the gun at the cops? He comes out with a gun in his hands just for what? Just to have a gun in his hands? Did Keith Lamont Scott even know that he was being assaulted by cops? Did he even know that Brentley Vinson was a cop? He's in plain clothes. That's just a guy jumping him. Did they identify themselves? I haven't heard any reason why they were even messing with Lamont Scott in the first place. Why were you even messing with him? Just for being out in public? Just because he was out of his house? A single man by himself in his car? So it made an easy target. He was easy prey for these predators. And then they try to say, well, I don't want to show the victim's worst day for consumption. No, show it. Show it. Something that happens to me, but let the world see it, okay? I'm going to err on the side that you all did something wrong. I didn't. Let the world see. Don't act like you're doing it for my benefit. And the family said to release it. The family saw it today. They said release it. The lawyer saw it today. The mayor saw it today. They're playing hide the ball. There's too many conflicting stories. Show the videotape. There's your truth, my truth, and then there's the truth. Show the videotape. Rikia Scott, Lamont Scott's wife said she saw it, so there's a witness. And then you have the tyrannical Republican governor of North Carolina, Pat McCrory, said that as governor, I firmly believe that we cannot tolerate any type of violence. None at all, unless, of course, your man kills this other man for no apparent reason. That he can tolerate. The murder of Lamont Scott. Pat McCrory, the fascist, anti-homosexual bigot, the tyrannical Republican governor of North Carolina, he can tolerate that violence, but not the reaction to the initial violence. The ACLU said the National Guard is intimidating and unnecessary. There wasn't a curfew, but then you just heard recently they've issued a curfew at midnight. The city we just saw just 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, September 2013, Jonathan Farrell, a 24-year-old black man, had crashed his car in a residential neighborhood several miles away from the complex where Lamont Scott had died, just a few miles away. And then Officer Randall Kerr fired 12 rounds at Farrell, who was unarmed, shooting him, hitting him 10 times. I saw the video. He was standing in the middle there, and by the time the third cop comes up, he runs. But there was two other cops there, and he was standing, just patiently waiting, but I guess the third cop, for some reason, that spooked him, and he runs, and then he gets shot. Looks like he got shot in the back. He runs by them. 10 shots he got hit with. 12 fired, 10 hit. And then that judge, that mistrial, and then they eventually settled the lawsuit for $2.25 million. It took them 2 years to release that videotape, and when it mistrialed, because most jurors wanted to acquit the officer, but 4 voted to convict him, and so that's a mistrial, and then they went ahead and paid him $2.25 million. $2.25 million. That's not nothing. Now we have a protester that was shot, critically wounded. One man's dead. Mayor Jennifer Roberts, what are you doing? I can't stand listening to her, the way she explains her city. Abominable. It's deplorable the way she talks. She was supposed to view the videotapes today. Justin Bamberg, he was the lawyer. He saw the videotapes. So because they had a lawyer, they were able to see the videotapes tonight. And the family says, yeah, go ahead. Let us. We haven't heard what the reaction is. We haven't heard what they think that they saw, what they believe from the video. So I'd love to hear what Justin Bamberg, the lawyer, has to say, and the family. I'd love to hear what they actually got to say when they seen who was the family. The mother, the daughter who's going to set it off. Was she there? I want to hear what she's got to say. Lyric Scott, tell me what happened. What is that video? What does that video show? And be precise. Tell me all the things that it does show. Well, he did do this, he did do that. But then tell me the truth. Scott didn't own a gun. He didn't habitually carry a gun. So the family's perplexed. It doesn't make any sense. Betty Shelby, the Tulsa woman, they say that she might get 4 years for murder. 4 years. There's folks in prison doing 20 years over cocaine. She took a man's life. He's dead. That's it. That's it for him. That's all he wrote. Terrence Crutcher. That's it for him. Because Betty Shelby decided to come across him one day, and she got scared of a big black man. The way the mayor, Jennifer Roberts, I mean, white women are privileged. And they're just so arrogant. Jennifer Roberts chastising everybody for about 5 minutes. Just be peaceful, be peaceful. Why should we listen to you? We don't trust you. You have murderous cops killing us, and you're sitting there telling us to be peaceful. Maybe you should be peaceful. As soon as you put a gun in a white woman's hand, she kills a man. So it's like the unearned, undeserved arrogance of Jennifer Roberts gets under my skin. One protester's been killed, Justin Kerr, who's another martyr of the revolution, of the uprising against police terrorism, perhaps. Maybe it's just a civilian on civilian. Even still, it's a murder, and we need to, what's going on here? What's happening? So I got all this written down. I think I'm going to sort through it all before I go there. But he was shot, and definitely Keith Lamont Scott is a martyr of the revolution. Keith Lamont Scott is a martyr for the uprising against police terrorism. So there's conflicting accounts with Justin Kerr, but he was shot on Wednesday and he died today. So he's definitely dead. The last thing, Jennifer Roberts, she said that there was going to be no curfew. Now there is a curfew. So who knows? Does she even know what she's doing? Is she even in charge? And then the last thing I want to mention, the Carolina Panthers and the NFL are considering moving Sunday's home game to another location as the protest continues. So, oh no football, right? And in fact, having a football game might quell the protest, right? Give everybody to sit down, watch some football a little bit, and maybe calm down. So that's, I don't know what they're doing there. But I guess they're just, the safety of our fans and our players. Which is, that's a good point. You should be safe. But that's another piece of information to this whole thing. So, yeah, this is pretty frustrating stuff. I definitely lean on the side of Keith Lamont Scott being gunned down for, not a good reason, not a good enough reason. And there's videotapes out there. So release the videotapes so that we actually know what's going on. When you look at the evidence, the evidence is he's by himself. He's not messing with anybody. The guy who murders him, Brentley Vinson, he's been on the force for only 2 years. He doesn't have his body camera on. He's in plain clothes. So he's a regular guy jumping another guy, and then he kills him. So he's got, in plain clothes, he's got the body camera's not on, so he's going to commit crime. If you're going to commit a crime, you don't videotape yourself committing a crime. So he made sure that video camera's turned off so he could get away with murder. And then he wasn't even looking for Keith Lamont Scott. He was going after, Joe Doe PQX. Joe Doe PQX. Where is PQX today? We don't even talk about this man. We got a man out there with the outstanding warrant where have we got the man? Have we got him? Do we even care? Nah, it doesn't matter. Now we're saying, well, what did Keith Lamont Scott do? What was he up to? He was sitting in his car, waiting for his kid to get off the bus from school. He's got 7 kids. He's a family man. Married for 20 years. A dutiful, faithful family man. Been together for 20 years. How many people can say that? 20 years. Brangelina, what was that, 12 years? They're a better marriage than Brangelina. And he couldn't have pushed the button on the body cam. He couldn't even push the button, but he could pull the trigger. He can't push a button, but he can pull the trigger. There's other officers there. There's dash cam. There's multiple videotapes. And everything that I've seen, I'm not happy. I don't like it when they blur this out. I know it's bad and it's bloody and it's gory, but when you blur it out, you kind of blur out everything else that's around it. Like, is there a gun, a weapon? Is there something around him? Like, I know, it's probably a bad, gory scene and it could be traumatic, but if that's me, show her the footage. Get the sympathy. I want people to be, if my head is just, brains are splattered all over the place because I got shot, show it. Make people wince when they see it. Oh my God, whoa. If they love it, then, make them laugh or whatever. But it doesn't matter. Show the truth. Show the actual image. And then look at it. Then there's blood splatter reports. There's so much you can actually get from the crime scene. But when you blur that part out like you're being respectful, you're not being respectful. You're helping the cover up. You're helping the cover up. Don't cover it up. Show it. And then the whole thing happened in a matter of seconds. In a matter of seconds. As soon as the cops are on the scene, you're dead. This is what happened when you call the cops. So, yeah. Even if they don't show the videotape, just with what he has admitted to today, the videotape doesn't show